Hi parents, welcome to Parent Orientation. This is being recorded for you in case you're not able to make the live orientation or just in case you want a refresher after or before the live orientation. The 5 things that I am going to cover are the 5 things that will be helpful for you as a parent to do so that you and your student are ready for the first day. So this won't cover everything, but it will cover how you can be ready for day one. So the 5 things that will help you and your student to be prepared for day one is if you as a parent understand structure and style, I'll go over that today. If you have already ordered your required materials, most of us have done that already, but just in case, I will go over that as well. If you get to know your resources as a parent, that will help for you and your student to be better prepared on day one. Also, number 4 is understand the schedule. So I will go over the schedule. What will the week look like? What will the class day look like when we meet during the live class? And then 5, understand the parent and instructor roles. So hopefully, again, these 5 things will help you to be ready for day one. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let me first help you to understand structure and style. Now, if you are not new to IEW, you are a veteran parent, then you can skip this part. But if you're new to IEW, I always like to explain what does IEW mean by structure and style. So by structure, basically, it's how your student will organize their thoughts before they write. Just like when we build a house, not that we are building houses, but if we build a house, we make a plan. I always explain to students it's the same for the structure skill that your student will practice and learn throughout the course of our class. They will use a tool called a keyword outline so that they know what they want to say before they write their paper. So you'll notice that before we write every single paper, IEW will have the student practice the skill of writing a keyword outline. Now, when IEW mentions the word style, this is what they mean when it comes to writing. Now, just like we don't leave a house in frame form, we want a house in a finished product, as a finished product. So, same thing with paper. When we are finishing our paper, we want to make sure that as writers, we help our reader see, hear, feel, and experience the scene that we're writing about. So your students will not only practice the skill of structure every time they write a paper, they will also practice the skill of style. So they won't only learn what to say, but how they want to communicate well. And IEW will present tools each week, one by one, called dress ups. Sometimes you'll hear them referred to as decorations, and also you'll hear them referred to as openers. Most of those decorations and openers will happen or be introduced in the second semester, but the dress ups will certainly happen in the first semester. So let me just explain kind of the structure side of the house. So when we talk about structure, you're going to see in your teacher guide and your student guide a term called a unit. So there are 9 units of structure that IEW teaches throughout the course of our class, both first and second semester. So Unit 1, every single structure and style for student class begins with Unit 1, and that is simply the skill of how to write a keyword outline well, since we are going to write keyword outlines before every single paper. So Unit 1 is going to teach your student how to write a keyword outline. The second unit, Unit 2, will teach your student how to take that keyword outline and turn it back into complete sentences, how to use your own words to retell the information from the source that we're using or the source that is given to them during the IEW lesson. Now, after that, you'll notice the units will either be a creative writing unit or a report writing unit. So for you who are new to IEW, your students will learn some strong foundational skills, both structure and style skills, for both creative writing and report writing. So Unit 3 is on the creative writing road. And so your student will learn how to write a keyword outline when they need to retell a narrative story. Now, in this particular unit, the students will have a 3-paragraph essay to write because each paragraph has a specific purpose, and that purpose aligns with the parts of a narrative story. Every narrative story has characters and setting, conflict and problem, climax and resolution. So the first paragraph, the student will retell the characters and setting. The second paragraph, the student will focus on retelling the conflict and problem. And then the third paragraph, the student will learn how to retell the climax and the resolution. Now, when we move on to Unit 4, we are moving over to the report writing road. And so your student will learn how to summarize a reference. I'm going to move myself up here just so you can see that. So when they're summarizing a reference, generally when we are starting to write a report and we are gathering information and resources, we generally find sources that have too much information. So your student will learn how to write a keyword outline when they have too much information in one reference. In this particular unit, they will also learn how to add a strong topic sentence and clincher or conclusion sentence to each of their paragraphs. All right, next you'll have Unit 5. And so your student in Unit 5, which is back on the creative writing road, in Unit 5, your student will write from pictures. Now, what you will notice when we get to that particular unit is that this is the first unit where the sources that IEW provides do not have any words. They are only pictures. So your student will have to come up with all of the words. The nice thing about that is if you have students who are reluctant writers, a lot of times I hear my students say they don't like to write because they just can't think of things to write. So we'll have 4 units where the sources will be providing words. And then Unit 5, that's when they just give them pictures. In Unit 6, we go back over to report writing. And in report writing, in Unit 6, your student learns how to write a keyword outline or the skill of writing a keyword outline when they are summarizing multiple references. So this solves the problem of, okay, if I have 2 or maybe 3 references that I'm using, how do I summarize multiple references and write a solid paragraph about a specific topic or multiple topics when I have more than one reference to use? This is an excellent skill your students will learn in Unit 6. Unit 7. Now, this is inventive writing. This is again when the student is not going to be given any words. Your student will be given a prompt. So notice that units 1 through 6, the students have been given sources that either have words or pictures. And this one, they'll have just a prompt. And they will learn how to pull anything from their brain. If they have to write about any topic without being able to research, how do they pull information from their brain? And this will keep your student from being afraid of the blank page. Now, if you are in the first level, SSS 1A, this is the last unit in your level. Now, if you're in SSS 2A, 1B, 2B, and of course any other levels, then you'll have Unit 8 and 9. And so in Unit 8, this is the formal essay model. All it really does is it adds the introduction paragraph and the conclusion paragraph to what they learned in Unit 6. So when we get to Unit 8, students are generally writing a 5-paragraph essay. So that is the last of the report writing road. And then the very last unit is the creative writing unit of learning how to write a formal critique. And the nice thing about this unit is we will have some literature that IEW will provide inside of the student guide, and it will use what we learned in Unit 3 and build upon what we already learned. Now, the formal critique will, of course, have an introduction paragraph and a conclusion paragraph. So it will be a 5-paragraph essay. But the nice thing is that it builds upon what we learned in Unit 3. So for those of you who are new to IEW, this is a crash course. And hopefully you'll understand how the units work and which units are creative writing units and which units are report writing units. All right, let's go ahead and move on to ordering the materials. So it's really important that you order your required materials and that your students have these for day one. So if you are an SSS 1A and Fix It Grammar Book 1, the link that was provided inside of the classroom linked you to the package. So IW has a full package. It comes with everything you need. So you only need to go to that link and order all of the things. So you will get both your teacher and your student guide for the SSS 1A and your teacher and your student guide for the Fix It Grammar level. Now you'll notice that if you're in SSS 2A, you'll have to order your teacher and student guide separately and for both Fix It Grammar and SSS 2A. They don't have a package. So the student needs the student guide and for the writing side and the student guide for the Fix It Grammar side. I do require that the parents have the teacher guide because when your students are asking you questions, you will have what I have, and it will allow you to be able to answer any questions, especially for Fix It Grammar. If they need to reference the answers, they're able to reference those answers at home after they have tried to fix the grammar sentences on their own. All right, for SSS 1B, again, nice thing that IW has is the whole package. The package gives you everything you need, both the teacher and the student guides for Fix It Grammar and for the SSS 1B writing level. And then for 2B, you're in the same boat as 2A. You'll need to order the teacher and the student guide for the writing SSS 2B curriculum, and then the teacher and the student guide for the Fix It Grammar Book 4. So hopefully you have that. The only thing your student needs to bring to class are their student guides. All right, now let me give you a few tips on how to get to know your resources before day one. This isn't 100% required, but it really does help you to helps you and your student to be more comfortable with the resources before they show up on the first day. So when you open your SSS level curriculum, you will notice that in the teacher guide, you will see a blue page, is the very first page, and it says accessing your downloads. Here's something that you all receive that is really, really nice. I think this is very helpful that IW provides this. For every single lesson or paper that your student will write, they provide student samples. Now, those student samples, they will show you how to access them, but they'll be accessed through your IEW account. You'll have to go into IEW.com, log in, and you should be accessing that. If you've registered through a charter school, I'm not sure if they give you the teacher resources, but if they do, you'll see the blue page. Another thing that you'll need to recognize or that you'll have available to you is the 30-week schedule. We follow the 30-week schedule because we have 2 semesters that are 15 weeks long. You'll notice that obviously when you look at your scope and sequence, there's 24 lessons, but we've spread those 24 lessons across 30 weeks. There's 24 lessons in the SSS guide. All right, now also in the SSS curriculum, if you read pages 5 through 8, those are the most important pages to read before day one. It just kind of acclimates you to your materials. There'll be a section that says introduction, assembling your binder. This will help you and your student know how they need to assemble their binder and come prepared on day one. It will talk about supplies. That's not as important because you have everything you need. And then it will just discuss Fix It Grammar. We will loosely be following their Fix It Grammar schedule, but I will provide you with the Fix It Grammar schedule every single week and of course across the entire course, just so that you know when we will be doing what lesson in Fix It Grammar and on what week. All right, and then vocabulary. In both Fix It Grammar and in the SSS curriculum, your students will be introduced to new vocabulary words every single week. And so, reading pages 5 through 8 in the SSS curriculum will talk to you about how vocabulary is introduced. And then last but not least, the scope and sequence is nice because then you know as a parent what structure we're going to be practicing, meaning what unit we're working on. And then for each lesson, it will let you know, okay, what is the dress up? What is the stylistic technique that we are going to be working on that particular week? So that, again, I'll be reinforcing that in class, but it's nice for you to be able to follow along as a parent. You'll also notice that there are literature suggestions. I won't cover that in this particular orientation, but I will cover that in another video just so that you can maximize the use of those literature suggestions. We don't cover literature in this class, but the suggestions are there for you if you want to have a more robust ELA class for your student. All right, and then last but not least, I always suggest you review page 9 before the first day because that's the lesson I will review with your student on day 1. And if they've skimmed it or you skimmed it before day 1, it just allows them to be more familiar with it. You'll notice that there are goals and a suggested daily breakdown. So page 9 looks like this. And every single week, the students will start with this particular page. We will cover this in class during my preview portion. But just notice that the suggested daily breakdown teaches your student what they should be doing every single day to manage their time well. Keep in mind that it's suggested. Some students work faster, some students need more time, and that day 4 or 5 is built in for students who need more time. And just keep in mind, this is simply a guide, but it's not required that you follow it exactly. But it's really nice, especially if you're working with your students on executive functioning skills or time management skills. IEW has it laid out really nicely for you and for them. Okay, so the fourth thing that will be helpful if you for you as a parent is if you understand the schedule. And so I'm going to go over what the schedule looks like. So for example, if your class day is Tuesday, if it's not, then just apply this in the same way. If your class day is Tuesday, that means we meet in our live class on Tuesday. Then day 1 on the suggested daily breakdown is Wednesday. What I explain to your students is that the very last day that you want to be watching part 1 of the video is Wednesday. It doesn't mean you can't do it before, because some students like to actually do it before Wednesday. They like to, leave the live class and watch the first half of the video. You're welcome to do that. You don't have to, but you don't want to not complete day 1 before the day after class. All right, day 2 for a Tuesday class would be Thursday. Day 3 for a Tuesday class will be Friday. Now, most of the time students will finish up on day 4, but if you need the 5th day, they have it. So for students who are on day 4, 5, they would have Saturday, Sunday, or Monday to complete whatever is listed under day 4, 5. But keep in mind that homework is due 24 hours before the live class. So what that means is an on-time homework assignment is submitted to me 24 hours before we meet live. That allows me to review their papers before we meet and to adjust what I review in class in case I notice that the class needs a little bit of a refresher on a concept that was taught that week. All right, so the 5th thing, we're almost done. The 5th thing is to understand the parent and instructor roles. What do I do? How do I support you and your student? And then what are the things that the parent will be responsible for? So as a parent, you're primarily responsible for your student's coursework. And I do ask that at the beginning, so at least for the first class, that the parent attends class with their students as often as necessary. So the younger your student is, you may want to be in earshot more than maybe my middle school or my high school students. So I ask that as long as your student knows how to, work the computer, work their, they know how to raise their hands and things of that nature. They know how to unmute and mute. Once they get the hang of it, I don't require that you're there. Please note that I love when parents not participate, but when they're there, when they're in the room and they listen. Because since I'm only spending an hour with your student, I want to make sure that if you hear anything that will help me to better support your student, that I'm able to have you hear that and we can have that dialogue. So please know that you're welcome to attend all the classes, but you don't have to, just as long as your student is comfortable with the flow of class. The other role of the parent is to read every assignment before it is submitted to the instructor. Now, your child will need an editor. Most of the time, the parents are the editors. However, you don't have to be. You can ask your student to find an aunt, an uncle, a neighbor, an older sibling, as long as, of course, that older sibling is old enough to actually edit their work and look at their checklists and ensure that the student is doing what they need to do. Just note that you don't necessarily have to be the editor, but there needs to be some adult or older teen who is responsible enough to read their assignment and make sure the student is submitting the assignment correctly. Also, make sure the coursework is properly submitted. I'll be using Google Classroom only for submissions just because it's a more organized platform than OutSchool is. So I will be sending the link to your child's Google Classroom probably about 3 days prior to the class beginning. So I only send the invitation to students who are enrolled and who are staying enrolled. All right, and the last thing that I look for from the parent is that the parent contact the instructor if there appear to be questions about assignments or feedback. I am here to support you and your goals for your student and their goals for themselves. So please know that that is my primary job and what I desire to do. So now this is a picture of what a checklist looks like. The reason I have this here is because I think that it's really helpful for you to know. It'll look a lot different as we, move on throughout the year, but just note that every time your student has to write at the end of the week before they submit their work, they will be using a checklist to make sure that they've done all the things asked of them. For example, when we talked about structure and style, did they do all the things that the checklist told them to do under structure? Did they add all of the dress ups that are required under style? And did they underline one of each? That's a big thing because I will be giving them feedback based on the checklist. And then mechanics, did they check the mechanics before they turned it in? So this is what they will need to submit to their editor along with their paper to make sure that they are following instructions. And then I will give them feedback based on this checklist every single week. Okay, instructor roles. This is what I'm committed to doing for you as an instructor. So I will provide live teaching that reinforces and provides added insight into the video instruction every week. And just so you know that during the live class, I break my live class down into about 4 sections. I review the concepts most of the time through games or something like that. Then I open up the time for the students to share their work from the week before. Now, we won't always share the entire paper. We won't have time for the students to do that every single week, but I do give them the opportunity to share portions of their paper at their level of comfort. The next thing I do is I preview. So remember when I showed you that page 9, that lets us know what our goals and our suggested daily breakdown is for the week. I use that page and we talk about what they will learn this upcoming week, what they should be focusing on and paying close attention to. And then the last part of class is used to go over Fix-It Grammar. And Fix-It Grammar is broken down into really two parts, a learn it part and a fix it part. So we go over the grammar concept that we are to learn that week, and then we work on the learn it section together to apply that grammar concept. And every single week, we will finish the day one sentence in class. And the rest of the sentences will be assigned for homework for that student to work on after class and to submit for homework. I will also provide direction and accountability for composition and grammar assignments. And again, I primarily am using that checklist. My goal is to catch them doing something right. So my goal is to praise them for all the things that they're doing well, but I will give them some suggestions if I notice that there are some things on the checklist, especially mechanics-wise, that might be helpful for them to pay a little closer attention to as they continue working on papers going forward. I teach a year of Fix-It Grammar, so first and second semester, if you complete both first and second semester, we'll do the whole year of Fix-It Grammar throughout first and second semester. And then I give timely and helpful feedback on every written composition students submit on time. That means if they submit it 24 hours before our live class, then they'll get feedback. Keep in mind that when they submit their feedback, I provide, or their paper rather, their homework, I provide them feedback before the next class. That's the goal, is to provide them feedback on their paper before that next class, so they know what they should be working on and what they did well. All right, so here's some frequently asked questions. I'm going to kind of speed through these for you, but these are questions I get a lot of the time, so I wanted to cover these in the orientation. What if my child needs help? So I do want you to know that after I dismiss, I'll always hang on for about 5 minutes after class. So I will say, thank you, have a great day, class is dismissed now. If you have any questions, I'll hang out for about 2 to 5 minutes. That's for you as a parent and for your student. So if a student doesn't want to ask their question during the class, or they just want to ask at the end when most of the students have already dismissed themselves, your student can always ask for help there. Obviously, they can always send me a message throughout school as well. I do ask that they don't communicate through the Google Classroom. Only Google Classroom will be used for submitting their homework and for me providing them direct feedback on their work. For Fix-It Grammar 3 and Fix-It Grammar 4, I do provide a help session. If you were with me last year, we'll do it a little bit different. I'm going to post what's called a Fix-It Grammar 3 help session and a Fix-It Grammar 4 help session inside of OutSchool. It'll be a very, very, very minimal price because OutSchool doesn't allow me to do it for free, but it'll be super cheap, so your student can always hop on. And what we do during those help sessions, because generally that's what they need help with, we try to get through 1 or 2 more sentences during that week. So we'll go through the first sentence as a class during the live class, but if they want some extra help, they can come to a Fix-It Grammar help session. And I usually offer those every single week. There will be a few weeks that I'm traveling and I won't offer them, but for the most part, they'll have Fix-It Grammar help sessions for Fix-It Grammar 3 and 4. Those are a little bit more involved. So I do offer that. Another thing your student can do, this is new for this year if you are new to me or if you've been with me before, if your student wants to submit a question in OutSchool, I am putting together what I call Ask Mrs. Brown, a YouTube channel where if a student asks me a question, I will try to answer it using a YouTube video, because most of the time somebody else has that same question. So that's new. If your student has a question that comes up throughout the week, tell them to send it to me in OutSchool and I will try to answer it for them directly and create a little Ask Mrs. Brown YouTube video. All right, how do students submit papers? We talked about that a little bit. Please use the Google Classroom. Ideally, I would love for your students to use Google Docs. It allows me to give you feedback easier and directly on your paper. However, if your student is handwriting, that's fine. They'll just need to take a picture of their paper and upload it to the Google Classroom under the assignment. Now, If they do that, it's not as easy for me to give feedback on the actual paper, but I'll still give them feedback according to the checklist itself. But again, I leave that up to you, the parent. If you want your student to handwrite their paper, they're welcome to do that. If they'd like to try typing, I would prefer that they use Google Docs and upload their Google Doc to the Google Classroom. The instructor will provide a completed checklist with a score weekly for every paper submitted. It'll just, again, that checklist is what I'll use to say, yes, you completed all of these things that the checklist said that you should, and I will give them a completion score as a result. If you don't need the score, it's not a big deal. You'll have it because Google Classroom allows that functionality. But if you do, it gives you, for those of you who are in charter schools or you need to provide some numerical or some form of grade to your student, I will have that available for everyone who needs it. Will the instructor edit the paper? Students should find someone to edit their papers prior to turning in the final draft. Again, like I said, I will not be an editor. That will be the job of their editor, but I will give them some feedback on their work. But my feedback will primarily be from the checklist, how well they followed the checklist. What if my materials do not arrive on time? Okay, no big deal. Don't panic. If you are an SSS 1A, 1B, or 1C, the first 3 weeks are free. Just go to IEW.com and you'll notice that it'll have a little image that will allow you to download the first 3 weeks of the materials for free. Now, if you're in 2A, 2B, or 2C, that's a little trickier because they don't have those available, accessible for free for the first 3 weeks. So you'll just need to contact IEW. They'll need to have some record of your purchase and see if there's something they can do so that your student can fully participate on day one. What should students bring to class? They should bring their student binder, the SSS student binder, and their Fix-It Grammar student book. They should also bring their completed homework to share. When will a Google Classroom link be sent? Basically about 3 days before class begins. All right, that completes or concludes parent orientation. If you have any other questions, please let me know. The next step is just showing up on day one. I look forward to meeting your students. Again, if I have any additional live parent orientations to attend, feel free to join me for a live parent orientation. It will cover all the same information. But if you have any other questions to ask out that were not answered in this particular video, I'll be happy to answer them there. And otherwise, just send me a message in OutSchool or to me directly via email, and I will be happy to answer your question. All right, I look forward to working with each and every one of your students and supporting you as a parent throughout the school year. Take good care.